easier just to get a job.
Honestly, it's hey, that's what I do. That's like the stuff I do behind the scenes. Like, it's easy work, man.
Here we go.
It's easy.
I'd like to open the February 27th, 2019 Board of Education Planning Session. Roll call, please.
Mr. Abbott,
Yes, present.
Mr. Bratton,
Present.
Mr. Johnson,
Present.
Mr. Millis, Ms. Parker.
Present.
Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving on to approval of agenda. Is there any corrections or anything brought up? Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Parker, second by Mr. Bratton. Roll call, please.
Ms. Parker,
Present, or, yes, sorry.
Mr. Bratton,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Millis,
Yes.
and Mr. Abbott.
Yes. Moving on to planning session. One, facilities.
Okay, so I asked Tony Shore from Shore Architects, who you guys are probably getting to know pretty well now. He's been working with the district for almost a couple of years, pre-bond issue and post-bond issue, but the district is obviously, for those that are listening on the record, eventually Shore Architects is who the district has selected to design our new K-5 elementary school. And we started the process post-bond issue really last summer, but started coming together in terms of the design phase in August. And we've been working through the program of requirements and then the schematic design phase where we came up with a draft floor plan and site plan. And now we have entered into what is called design development, and we start to get a little bit more into the details. But Tony's gonna kind of give everybody a general update on where we are, and we're gonna look at a few things that he's gonna point out to us in terms of the floor plan, the site plan, and even some 3D images of where we are. These are not final, and we're still in the design phase, but I'll let Tony kind of take over from here.
Yeah, we got a few more months to finalize. So yeah, like Sean had said, we had, you guys approved the program of requirements, which is a bunch of numbers and charts. We went into schematic design, and in that process, we met with the site, the design committee, which has been great. I mean, I just think it's fantastic to have such a good group that gets together to help us design your facility, and it's been a great committee. So what we had done is when we finished that, we submitted to the CMR, who's Summit Construction, and they reconcile, and then they do their cost estimate, and then we reconcile their cost estimate to the budget. We had done that, I think it was early last week, and we're reconciled, which is great. You know, it's nice to, every time we do this, usually there's a little higher cost from the CMR. We work through some things so we can go into the next stage, and it worked out great. We weren't that far off. They were great conversations, and so we were able then to, what we feel, move into the design development stage, knowing that we're going to be coming to the board eventually with approval of schematic design. So the state person that's working with you, with the OSCC, Chris Coletta, he's gathering all that information. So at the March board meeting, we'll be coming and asking for the approval of schematic design. And that's just an official approval, so we can officially go into design development. But again, as Sean said, we already have. We can't wait. We're moving on. So the good thing is we were reconciled with the budget and their estimate, which is a good thing. And we always get there. It's just usually, and it's with Summit, and any CMR, but I'll tell you, the fact that you guys have agreed and decided to go with the CMR process, to me, with these major school projects, it is extremely helpful to have them at the table during design to bring up things and to value engineer with us if we need to, come up with options, and to do estimates as we go. Because what we do as architects and engineers, we estimate all the time, and then we put a project out for bid when we don't have a CMR. And contractors have 4 weeks to look at it and give us a price. These guys are with us for a year, so they really know what we're doing. And the good thing is, again, they understand construction. They know what these things are going to come in at, and have a good idea when they bid it finally where it's going to come in. So having them at the table and through this design process is just extremely helpful. And again, I'm glad you guys selected who you selected. They know what they're doing, and it's worked very well, and we're real pleased with the outcome of their estimate. something, and I can think, probably maybe shared this story before. Our first one of these about 4 or 5 years ago, the CMR estimated $3 million over a budget that we thought was not over budget. And we redesigned, and the bids came in even $1 million under after 6 months of dealing with these guys. So it was a terrible process. But everyone since then that we've had has been extremely good, and we're really pleased with that process. So I think we've got a good process.
And on top of that, what, you know, as we consider the selection process, I mean, you've worked with Summit Construction before. They've worked in Fairfield County, they've built the Lancaster schools, they're building them, they've had a good experience. And, so you've worked closely with Summit, and you guys are quite often on the same page, it seems like.
We are, and
For the
again,
most part.
you've got a team there that when we get into construction, they are so workable, and if things come up, they just work it out. You know, it's not this contentious situation, which can happen sometimes with contractors. We've never had that with these guys. They have been the best projects I've worked on. So I'm pleased you guys decided to bring them on. I think you're gonna find when we get into construction, like they already have been in pre-construction, they're very workable and very knowledgeable and know what they're doing. It's just a great thing. So
I think, we kind of got that from the meeting last week. There were some, you know, the drywall walls versus masonry walls in the flooring. But they had made some assumptions just by working with you in the past that ended up being right, so.
Right. And the good thing is, they know our documents, they know probably how we're gonna put the building together, and we did. We had a few items that they brought up, and again, they were great suggestions and they were good things, and we had talked about a few of them, most of them, before we got together with you guys, and that's what you want. You want your architect and CMR talking all the time, and we do. And when you have a good relationship, it makes it even easier, so.
So what was the thought on what drywall or masonry?
Well, I'll let Tony talk about that. There are some areas that it's not required.
Yeah, well, yeah, the state of Ohio would prefer, like us, to set the corridor walls up so that there's steel beams and steel columns, and in the future, you would be able to maybe take the walls down that you have in the hallway for flexibility for future design. It's not required, but the fact that you guys want, we recommend too, that you have concrete block walls in your hallways due to durability, that is a bearing component for steel. So why would we want to put beams and columns and have two structures there, but the state, it's not mandatory, but they recommend it. So we have designed other schools that way, and we've been able to afford to do them in the past. With the budgets today and the cost today, with the monies that the state's setting aside, there's not enough money to do that. And they're not gonna say we can't. They're okay with how we're doing it. So that was one of the suggestions. We could save so many dollars, and I don't know what it was, to stay with just the block walls and don't have all this steel columns and beams down the hallway. So they came up with those kind of suggestions, and they were just helpful. There was about 10 of them.
There were areas like in the administrative, office areas that, you don't need block walls, that there you can do the steel frame walls with drywall in the office.
I was just thinking,
Yeah.
running through my mind that what was the building had its office.
Yeah, exactly. Usually, and also in between classrooms. You know, we put 6-inch drywall walls in between classrooms with insulation, and it's just cheaper to do that. And it also then, in the future, allows that flexibility. If you wanna tear down a wall in between a classroom, you can do that. So that you still have flexibility between classrooms, not necessarily to the hallway. So anyway, it was a great meeting. It didn't take us long, and we got reconciled. And I can't say more about it. So I think it's been a great process. So what I'd like to do is let me walk through, and I know you guys have copies of these, and I think you guys probably know this enough, but let me just walk through the school again. As on the first floor, as we come walking in the front, we have it like you have here, a secured vestibule. When school's open, no one should come in until they come into the office and get buzzed into the office, and then can get to the rest of the building. But that's a secured entry. So this whole area up here, I'm not gonna go through every room, but this whole area up here is your administration. You know, it has the clinic, it has all the offices, it has a conference space, it has teachers, or student dining, staff dining, not teachers, staff dining. And so then when we come down the hall right through here, we have our music room, we have the first floor of the media center, and I'll talk about the second floor in a minute. And then as we continue to come down the hall, your stage is here, student dining, gymnasium. Off the student dining is the kitchen, and this is just back of house, storage, receiving, mechanical, maintenance, that's what all that is. As you come in and you come down the first hall, this is our kindergarten area. What we've got in each of the 4 areas of the wings is what I call them, are 8 classrooms per grade level. So we have kindergarten on this level, and in between kindergarten, there are restrooms off of each kindergarten room. And there's also, in each of these, what I call neighborhoods or wings, there's always special needs classrooms in every one of them. This one has a teacher's workroom, actually. Nope, that's not right.
So that's self-contained.
That's self-contained, special ed room. But we also have a lot of small little spaces for interventions or however you want to use them. They're multi-use rooms. At the end of each wing, you're going to see one here. And in this area, which is hard to see as small as it is, there's 4 little 100-square-foot rooms there to allow for one-on-one or one-on-2 or 3 students. And so there's a lot of flexible space to do those type of things in this whole building, which is great. So each neighborhood also has a restroom that has student restrooms in it. The first floor one here, close to the gym and the student dining area, has a family restroom, has those type of restrooms in it as well. But that's only in that area. All the other neighborhoods or wings all have restrooms for staff and students in it. So if we go down to this wing, we have the 3rd grade.
On the first floor.
On the first floor, yes, I keep forgetting which on the first floor. So we have our 3rd grade, which are these 8 classrooms here. Once again, we have the 2 art rooms on this end as well, but we again have group restrooms, we have special needs spaces as well, because this has 2 special needs spaces with a conference room, and so again, every neighborhood has those similarities in it. And then as we go upstairs, and I'm going to start down this wing here, we have at the very end is our 2nd grade, 8 classrooms is from here down. Then we have 4 first grade and 4 more first grade here. And in between there are some self-sustained special ed rooms, group restrooms, teachers' workroom. And you're going to see very similar at the other wing, but in the center wing, we have the 2nd floor of the media center. So we want students that are at this floor can be up at this level if they wish. There's an interior stairway to get from the 2nd floor down to the 1st floor of the media center. So it's a double volume media center space. And then there's a nice grand stair again as you come up from the 1st floor. It's an open stairwell. Obviously we have them at the ends of the building, but we're able to we want one in the middle. We need that for circulation. The elevator is actually right there. And when you go down to this next wing again, it's very similar. We at the end have 5th, I can remember, we have 5th grade, 8 classrooms at this end, and then we split up 4th grade here and here. Once again, teachers' workrooms, special needs rooms, and restrooms as well. So each neighborhood has a restroom as well. So again, the committee has been great. We've moved this and manipulated, and it's turned into, again, I think a very nice facility that has a lot of the core in the middle, and then classrooms on both floors, basically on the outside if you want to stay there. Any questions about the floor plan? I think it's really come together very nicely. And it still gets tweaked, like Sean said, we've got a long way to go. We do. I mean, we're early in design development, and we're not submitting design development. I wrote it down to the end of April. So we still got March and April to be tweaking this and not really changing the plan a lot, but really working on the design of it a little bit individually. So from here, we have, by the way, Monday had focus group meetings as we started design development, and I forget how many meetings there were, and I wasn't there, Mike was there, my other architect, Dave, was there, but we met separately with academics and special needs and, the different areas, physical education. And so, those that are really dive down into the spaces and talk about furniture and finishes and those type of things. And again, from talking to Mike and Dave, they seem to go very well. Sean, I think you said they were very productive.
They did. The teachers had a lot of good feedback. We met with K-5 teachers, special needs teachers. We met with art, music, phys ed, librarians, food service,
Office
office
principals.
personnel, maintenance. Still got some feedback today that I sent on to Tony and Mike Dingledine from Community Design Alliance that they do some interior, some of these floor plans and interior work as well. Yeah, it went very, very well.
And again, it's just diving deeper, right? As each stage goes along, like I mentioned before, we have to just dive in deeper to everything. So we're very pleased with this. So let me run through the site plan. Is that the next one? Yeah.
Well, real quick,
Yeah.
if you could go back to that floor plan, Travis, in the middle section. Let's go down to the first floor, in the middle section near the media center, right there. This area back here, we didn't talk much about, but there's a parent volunteer room. Right now we have it labeled as a conference room. It might become like a sensory room right here, but there are several conference rooms, for meetings, special ed meetings. There's one on the, third and fourth and fifth grade wing as well. But, you know, there's a teacher prep here, and then you have 2 upstairs as well. But I just wanted to point out kind of this area, you know, we have a lot of parent volunteers that work, in our schools as well. So it was nice that we were able to incorporate some areas like that into this building. There's even they asked for a restroom in the reception area. I guess when parents come into the elementary schools, they often have little siblings with them and they want to use a restroom somewhere. So they were able to work in a restroom kind of towards the front, not a public restroom, but one of necessity if people are there. The health clinic is right there with access from the hallway if needed. But your 2 secretaries are here with the workroom. So there's, again, the committee worked hard for several months. And if you get questions about, well, why are kindergarten classrooms, why does each one have a restroom, and why are they 1,100 square feet? Okay, well, a lot of people do, and why are those bigger than first grade classrooms? Well, I'll let Tony talk, or I can quickly explain.
You know it.
But the Facilities Commission, they suggest that kindergarten classrooms are 1,200 square feet, and they include, in the co-funding, they include a restroom for every kindergarten classroom. That is not the case for first grade. They recommend classes between, well, they're built anywhere from high 700s up to 900 square feet.
810.
Yeah, for some of those. And our classrooms are, you know, Mike and Tony did a tremendous job of, our emphasis was making sure that we are able to maximize classroom space as we continue to grow as a school district. And right now we have 6 grade levels, or 6 sections per grade level. We do have 7 in 3rd grade, but we were able to get 8 classrooms per grade level, put 25 kids in each classroom, and that gives us quite a few students that we can get in there. So.
And in the bond campaign, you know, we talked about going from the 905 to 1,000, and we needed a little over 10,000 extra square feet. We are right on our square footage. We got the co-funded square footage, 100,220 square feet, and we got our extra 10,000 plus. It gets us to our 110,654. I think it's a little less than that right now, but again, the number that we threw out needing is exactly what we got this building designed to do, which is good. I mean, we've hit it right on, and we have to. I mean, we cannot go more than that. We don't have extra monies to go more than that, so we've hit it right on the money. Okay. So on the site plan, you know, again, this is coming down. Obviously, this is Carroll Eastern, and as you come in, you see we had to do a traffic study in dealing with the county and so forth. They are requiring that we do create a turn lane, and so we will have additional pavement here to create our turn lane coming in. There'll be a left turn lane up here as well. So we've had to widen this out, as you can see. Can't get it all, there we go. So we're widening out a little bit of the roadway to allow for these turn lanes off of that road. Did they reduce the?
They did.
Mhm.
They reduced the speed. They're reducing the speed limit to 45.
Thank you, my goodness, that was something.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing. And so as you can see, we've got, you know, 2 lanes coming in. We got 2 lanes coming out. As you come in, this outside lane is hard to see. That's where we want buses to go. We want buses to stay on this outside lane, to loop around and come up and drop off students in this general area. So that gives them plenty of room to bring the buses in and stack at the end of the day and load up the students. And so that's great. We don't want to be on Carroll Eastern. So if you go back up to the top again, as you come down, you start to see parent drop off. And there's a lane here. So the opportunity here, if there's not a lot of parent drop off, which seems every day at every school to become more and more, I don't know why, but it's just become inherent. Every district is the same. There are more parents dropping students off every minute. So anyway, we have the opportunity to come in here and drop off students. There's a concrete sidewalk. And so that gives you some stacking ability here. The concern is if there starts to be more than that, then we have the opportunity, because we've added a little wider asphalt, is to bring parents around, bring them around and loop them, you have to do it, right? Loop them so that they come back in here before they come back into here. So they may be going around a long way. It just depends on how many parents are dropping off. And so we've added more asphalt to do that and to allow that. The other thing that we've done is this is back of house here. So when we have deliveries to the kitchen, the mechanical spaces are back here, they need a way to get in and get out as well. So this allows the opportunity then, if there are, you know, some traffic, and usually, you know, we don't have too many deliveries during pick up and drop off, but there will be occasionally, you know, there's the opportunity for them to still be able to get out of the site and not get trapped in.
What was the number of tennis courts? 5?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, you need 5, I mean, if your high school's playing here, there's always 3 singles and 2 doubles, and if you don't have that, then you're there an extra 2 hours, and I lived that, so. That's what I did, I was too short for basketball. So we've got, keep in mind, we do have soft play area for kindergarten, showing currently, we have soft play area for 1, 2, and we have soft play area up here for grades 3, 4, 5, so, and there's also hard play area. So up here, you'll see a little hard play area for these older students. Our hard play area for the younger students is gonna be over in this area here, where we're gonna be able to close this off during the day here, here, and here, and that'll allow for the students then to have a hard play area, and we're not gonna need all that parking during the day when the students are in school. It gives, instead of building and spending money on more asphalt for them, we already have a spot, so we're gonna utilize that. The UFCC typically funds, I would say in a K-5 building, a K-1, 2 usually play area and a 3, 4, 5 play area. We've been asked to break kindergarten out separate. We're gonna continue to work that way. It means there's a little more equipment, and until we get further into DD, we lay those out. We have Summit estimate the job. We need to see if we can afford to do that. We still don't know.
And if we're not able to separate that out, at least we will have this grass area that if the district ever wanted to do that locally on our own, a year or 2 down the road, we could do that if we need to, as long as we got that layout.
Right. And so the tennis courts, again, we're back here, and there was some additional parking here, which I think is a great idea, you know, for people from the public wanna come in and use them or whatever. There's some parking not all the way here, which isn't that far away. I guess if you're playing tennis, you should be able to walk that far.
And the main reason was because we gotta get the high school, you know, the high school kids that will go out there for practice and, any visitors as well, kinda out of the way, the loop of traffic.
Exactly, and so we show a green space, but sort of what that means is we're gonna try to keep it fairly level when we grade it out, so we have a green space. And back up towards the road is where we're gonna have our detention. There's another green space here we're trying to create somewhat flat. And in here is where you have your proposed detention basin. Again, that's not sitting with water, it's a depressed area that when there's a lot of rain, it may sit with water for a few hours or half a day or day, and eventually get itself out of there, but it's not a pond or something that really holds water for any significant period of time.
Should there be a need in the future to have more classrooms in the elementary? Would you propose them being where the soft surface playground is now?
Yeah, I mean, yes, exactly. I mean, it's gonna be difficult to do it here, but you definitely have the opportunity right here. And so I think what we ought to do, and that's a great point, Mark, I think we need to think about, you know, how we laid this out and really try to keep this kind of freed up. And I think that's a great point, because we just do a box on there now, we haven't laid this out. But I think, as you said that, and I wanna make a note, we need to make sure we've kind of, you know, we've got to design in a way where we're not gonna impede. I don't want you to have to move equipment, if you ever have to do that. And I think that's the way to add these down there. I think that's a great point. Okay. So now, again, you can see, I think I've told you all why we do this.
Real quick, Travis, could we go back one to the entire site? So that was kind of a zoomed in, not that, there's another one, the next one, I think. It's a site plan that shows the entire 58 acres. To the right. You got it right, keep going, right, nope, to the right. There you go. Oh, maybe not. Okay.
I don't know if I got that one.
In your copies, the paper copy, I gave you the entire, site plan. It's got all 58 acres. You can see, it only takes not even half the site. I kind of measured that area today on the auditor's website. There's over 30 acres that are still available for things like the FFA program that they're farming out there right now.
This one?
So just kind of, I thought I emailed it to you, maybe this morning or last night. But it'll just show you that, you know, you see the entire 58 acres and it's only taking up, you know, about half the site, but there's still over 30 acres available for FFA program to farm. There it is, there, he's got it up there. You can see the entire back part of the property, okay? I know I've had questions about that, so I just wanted to make sure we addressed it. Over 30. When you measure the area. They can come down along the drive a little bit too, not all the way out to the road, but they can come down along the left side, or the west side of the property.
So, again, it's great drawing in 3D today. We draw three-dimensionally as we put these documents together. It gives us the opportunity to create and show you an image of what the building's gonna look like. And so this is actually, again, as you come in the front entrance, there is the walkway that's covered for a little bit of this. This is the part of the office area. It's just a lower roof area that we're able to show, again, a little bit of breakup in that elevation. And then you'll see, again, two-story structure throughout. We've created where we have that little small group room and our stairwells. We've created, again, a two-story volume, of course, with a low slope roof. But everything else, as you see on the primary part of the building, is a pitched roof until we get back to the gym and student dining. So we have a pitched roof. Currently, we're showing, it shows metal on here, but we're gonna base bid shingles. And right now, we've called for an alternate for metal, because metal would last longer. We'd love to be able to afford it, but it's a little more expensive. But we're hoping that if we get some good numbers, we can get the metal.
Just don't use the same for meetings.
Yeah, these are,
They're working on them
we
again.
actually talked about, these are a 50-year warranty, three-dimensional shingle.
Right. Oh, yeah, it's a substantial shingle. Now, they won't last 50 years, but they'll last a long
Right.
time.
Kind of like flat roofs.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I think you'll get 30, I think you can get 30 years out of them. I wouldn't say I'd get more than that. So, so you can see again, I think visually, don't get boxed into the colors. The roof isn't the roof color that anybody has picked. The brick is not, and by the way, we are showing brick on the outside of the entire building, which, you know, I would prefer, you know, if budget gets tight on projects, people start going to a split face block or part split face block. Right now, we're able to afford to put brick on here. We haven't decided what size yet. The bigger the brick, usually a little cheaper. I don't know if you've seen probably different sizes, but, and we've got some patterns in here that we've just taken a pass at. You know, we need to really delve into it a little bit more. But again, don't look at colors. We have not picked any colors for any brick. We just know we like to have a couple tones in it,
Based upon the community forums that we held from the very beginning, Mike Dingledine gave people in the audience clickers and responders and showed them different types of architecture. And the one that was most appealing and that they felt was most appropriate for this location on Carroll Eastern Road was a traditional brick schoolhouse look. So that's what when I got this image, I don't know, a week ago, they had that brick with that other color brick or block, and my personal opinion was that's perfect. I like this the way it is, you know, but I don't know what other people, what all
Looks
you
good to
think,
me.
you know, what the board.
How close are those, since I have a little, what they call color confusion, not color blind. So how close are those colors to what we have in this building?
I don't know.
I don't know that.
Oh, okay.
I really haven't paid attention because all my guys did is they just threw some colors on there and started with the red brick and kind of a tan yellowish brick and so I don't know.
I think a traditional brick will look
I
nice,
think
but
it's close.
this is kind of the chance.
I think-
It looks cool.
But yeah, so until we, you know, again, that's part of this DD phase and even CD phase, where we're actually going to start to get some brick samples, bring them for you guys to look at, or somebody, whoever's gonna make the decision. And yes, this is 3 bricks that we like in the reddish tone if we're going red, and 3 bricks we like in the tan or yellowish tone, and we wanna put those in the spec, so we get competition. So if you, again, you can see again the tennis courts and everything else, and I just think it's neat to see this in bird's eye view and kind of see your site. It gives you a good vision. So we've also got a video that just walks you around the building.
It goes fast, so
Yeah,
pay attention. It's kind of neat. It gives you obviously a 3D perspective.
yeah, and I get to see the rest of the building. But you know, this is our double volume space again here. You know, where we have the media center up there, and again our stairwell's right here. The media center's a little bit behind it, but. So as we keep going around, and I'm gonna talk about landscaping here in a minute, I guess I can talk now, it stops, thanks. We have 0 money in the budget right now for landscaping, and that happens on every project. It's something that can always be added later, it's something that we have found some districts have gone locally with somebody locally to do it. So right now in the budget, there's grass, but we don't have trees or plantings or whatever. There are times where we've been able to afford to get some, sometimes not. We will not have trees that look like that in our project right out of the get-go unless someone brings a lot of money to the table, because those are mature trees and it'll look like that maybe someday, but we
Yeah,
are
right.
definitely not gonna be there.
I tell you what's nice, that stairway right there, as you come up to that landing on that stairway, you got just these large glass windows.
Yeah, it's that
You can imagine on the inside, as you come up to a landing, and then you circle up to middle steps,
It just gets
I
some
think they
daylight.
can look really nice, yes,
Get
daylight.
some nice daylight in there, and brightens that up. So we get around to the back side of the building, keep going. So we get back here again, we have low slope roofs for our kitchen and maintenance area for the gym, student dining, stage area. Again, we have a low slope roof, that will be a single ply type membrane.
You have, Travis, could you rewind a little bit? One thing that, the staff really likes, and Mike and Tony have laid this out really well, that's probably good right there. The media center, the second floor is right here, the first floor is right here, there's an internal open case stairway, so you can see the stairway from the lower level, and there's a door that comes out to this there's an outdoor learning area. Yeah.
Thank you.
Out here kind of between, and there's some doors, what would be on the north side of the cafeteria, so the third and fifth graders can come out to their play area right here, but we also have our two art classrooms right here and here, and there will be doors, Mike is making some adjustments, there will be doors coming out of those art classrooms into that outdoor learning lab area. Those would be the classrooms that would use that learning area. If you can imagine this door with a learning lab out here, and the art room is able to access a learning, outdoor learning lab area. The teachers are excited about it. I think it'll be used quite a bit.
So again, sort of back of house here, coming around the gymnasium area.
This is where the students actually, on the buses, come in and out into the cafeteria. Right here, there's a double set of doors, and then there's a couple set of doors going into the gym right here. But this is where they'll load and unload.
So we've created this canopy, just, if someone's standing there waiting, they can stand there. We didn't provide shelter all the way into the building again. Typically, we do not, it just depends if you have dollars, maybe, but at this point, we just have it right along the side of the building. And that pretty much shows you the aerial, and, as we get further developed, and it's hard to see at this size and but as our engineers, it's amazing to me, start laying out ductwork, or start laying out where switches are, that they'll start showing up in this model. I mean, it's just so amazing. You'll see a light switch, you'll see an exit sign, you'll start to see things as our engineers keep loading stuff into the software, so it's kind of neat. I find it interesting. I don't know how to do any of it, but I find it interesting. I'm a dinosaur, I guess. So I'm gonna go through every line item of the schedule. Okay, maybe not.
But there's no quiz later.
Maybe not. So like I said, where do we go from here? We're in early design development. Our schedule is April 25th even to submit our design development to the CMR, and that's when they again take that information and do a detailed estimate. We do an estimate, we compare the two, we reconcile, and hopefully again we get that reconciled properly. So in the interim of that, after we've submitted that, we're going to be submitting the early site package. We've been talking all along about trying to get started this year. So the goal is again around May 23rd, and I got some specific dates, is what it says here. We're gonna submit our early site package to Summit as well, and have them do their guaranteed maximum price for that. So that's the utilities, that's the pad, and so what we wanna do is come to the board with that GMP, approve that part, so that they can start doing that early site work as soon as we can get them started. So the goal then is around July, if we get all the jurisdictional approvals, and Glenn Decker, our civil engineer, has been working with that, EMP. So our documents are going to them towards the end of July timeframe. By the end of August, we should have their guaranteed maximum price for the rest of the package. That'll be the big number. And so we're shooting for, hopefully then, them starting to work on foundations and footings in October. That would be ideal, and they can start to do that, and they plan to continue to do that. So the goal is that they can start as early as we can get the early cycle on, maybe get going on foundations, because the completion date is in spring of 2021. And the great thing about that is, it gives us a little fluff. If we have craziness, it gives us a little time. You don't need to use them till August. We want to turn it over to you guys. They want to turn it over to you guys in the spring. So you have all summer to get moved in. And so we're, and again, I like I mentioned before, these guys have done an awesome job. They finished one of our elementaries 3 months early in Lancaster. I think Thomas Shuey's going to finish 4 months early. And General Sherman's our problem child, because we've got a lot of dirt issues and other things. I think we're gonna improve on the schedule, but I don't think we're gonna hit it as good as Thomas Ewing. But yeah, these guys are good at this, and they know what they're doing. And if we can't hit that spring of 21, I'll be shocked. We may be in before that.
In 2019's had a wetter start than 2018, which was possibly the wettest year on record, I think. So let's hope for a good summer and a good fall.
Yeah. Well, some people think, this winter's been mild, and it has, but when it's too mild, that doesn't help them either. They need this 20 to 30 degree temperature so things kind of stiffen up. When it's mucky and messy, it's just worse.
Yeah.
And if it's too cold, they can't work either. But we haven't had that happy medium this year. It's been good.
Yeah, my golf ball didn't roll very far.
I'll bet it did. You got out, man. It was beautiful. So that's kind of my update. Anybody got any thoughts or questions or?
How was somebody living that last 9 weeks in March? You think you can do that? He said what, that's scary.
Want us to start from scratch? Thoughts, opinions?
Great. I actually, when you showed me the video yesterday, I thought the same thing as far as the building. Perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
The
You have a comment of the brick?
Yeah, I kind of like what they came up with.
Even the gray tone on the roof looks kind of nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it all looked great. And we can head that direction. We just need to, we'll get there.
Tony, what do you see as the biggest risk to kind of this timeline? Is it?
Usually, usually it's getting out of the ground. Keep in mind, if you remember, we set an LFI for additional dirt if we run into bad soil. We do have our borings, by the way. We do have that information to our consultants. But usually, we see delays coming, 2 things. One of them is getting out of the ground, getting all that dirt all worked out so we can get the right components to build the building. But the good thing is we start early. If we're starting in July, let's say they go into October or November to finish the site, that's not gonna hurt us because there's so much time. And then the only other thing is if we really get bombarded with extremely cold weather for a long period of time, or if we get into the spring and it's just extremely wet, And so the weather always slows us down at times, and the bad soils. Well, we know what the soils are, we're gonna try to hedge that. And so I don't, you never know, and I won't say things won't go perfect, but because they won't. There'll be bumps along the road, but the great thing about this, and this is unusual for us, is if we're finishing in spring, we still have 3 and 4 months before students start. So we have a fluff here that we usually don't have, and so it's really kind of unusual and nice to have.
Any other questions? Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, good night.
Probably sooner than you like.
No. Never. Thanks, guys.
Be careful.
Hey, thank you. Bye.
All right.
Good, moving on to 2019-2020 planning. Mr. Hahn.
So every spring we roll around to this time of year, and it's time to start looking at what the different buildings and departments need, what Travis and I also feel is needed to address for the upcoming school year. And I guess as we get started, you have a hard copy of a spreadsheet that Travis's department puts together once we collect all the items from the different principals, directors, and supervisors. And this is just everything. This is so the board can see everything that every principal, director, and supervisor could possibly want. Doesn't mean that we approve all of this. It doesn't mean that all of this is budgeted into the forecast that Travis produced. However, what we need to do is, I want the board as transparent as possible to see what is put on the table. And then our process for this is to, get your input and then go back and discuss and plan and look at the budget and bring it back to you in March at a planning session with, possible recommendations. It doesn't mean that, obviously at a planning session, we wouldn't be voting on those, but try to get a feel for what the board will support and what they won't support. And then on the April board meeting, if we have things that need approved with capital or personnel, try to get those approved then. That way, for the positions with personnel, for example, that need to be hired, we can get them posted right after the board meeting in April and try to get good teachers and good staff members to join us if we do have any positions that we add. And that also allows for a couple months of kind of gearing up and planning for any purchases or any projects that would take place in June or July. So that's kind of our time frame. So tonight what we're doing is, I guess I wanted to share with you an issue that I brought up, well, that's been an issue really for quite some time. And at different points of the year, you see the enrollment report on a monthly basis. And if you look in your packet, I forget which page it is here, electronic packet,
11.
it's page 11. You have our February enrollment report that was in your board packet. And I want to point out a couple things to you in terms of enrollment, because that impacts personnel and space issues. If you look at the 6th grade and the 5th grade, you'll see 182 students and 169 students. We also, in K-8, if you look at a large class, our current kindergarten is at 167. That's 27.83 students per class. We don't know what our kindergarten enrollment will be for 1920. I hope it's around 140 or 150, but in all reality, it won't surprise me if it's at 170 again. But we don't often find that out until the middle of the summertime. So we have to have a plan in place. We have to have the available space if we would need to add some staff. But back to the current 6th grade and 5th grade, our negotiated agreement allows it for middle school teachers to see up to 170 students. So when you look at a priority based upon being in compliance with our agreement, I think there's going to be a need at the middle school, but I also have expressed concerns to try to stay within the budget and within what's projected in terms of staffing positions and the lack of space and the cost for things like trailers. We've talked about all that passionately with a lot of people here in December. And we know what options we kind of have and what we don't have. But I guess I would like to prepare the board that, you know, I'd like to hear your input if you want to provide it. But, you know, obviously to get in compliance with our agreement, the middle school staff, principal, assistant principal, and counselor have worked hard to come up with a schedule that would potentially allow us to add a couple positions and get us in compliance with our negotiated agreement, so teachers are not seeing more than 170 students. You may look at this enrollment report and say, well, what about 10th grade and what about 9th grade? Well, 9th grade at the high school level, teachers can go over 170 if they agree, okay? But also that 10th grade class of 169 students, you got to imagine 25 to 30 of them will be gone when they get accepted to the Career Center.
Right.
So that reduces that.
Right.
Okay. So if you take all that out at the high school, you're looking at 6th grade and 5th grade, which is next year 7th and 6th, and you're looking at kindergarten as our high priority areas. I could potentially see a couple positions added in the middle school.
Cause I'm looking right here, so just 6th grade next year, I mean, you could have 182 in 7th grade next year.
Yeah.
Then you could still have one.
If you get a couple movements, now we're out of compliance.
One and three.
That's right. Then we're out of compliance there. You know, we're not out of compliance with the current kindergarten class at 167.
Right.
However, I think, you know, we all have to say how many kids is enough in a K-2 classroom, you know? So I just wanted to kind of point out the enrollment issues. Now, the space issues, I'm still working on a lot of different options and I've met with teachers, I've been to the primary school, I'm working with the ESE, I'm working with other superintendents to potentially look at an option to free up a classroom or two by moving some people around, adjusting schedules. And they know that they can be maybe inconvenienced, but based upon our discussion this winter, they were more supportive of being inconvenienced or inconveniencing others to potentially not go to an extreme of a half-day kindergarten schedule that we talked about. Okay, so that's kind of a look at the enrollment and the space issues. On the spreadsheet that Travis has, in terms of personnel, you will see the potential for a couple teachers at the middle school, the potential for maybe a first grade teacher, the potential, depending upon enrollment, that we may need to go add a kindergarten teacher. So that's 4 positions in teaching, and that is a lot more than what is in the 5-year forecast. So we have to find a way with this budget to try to recoup some of that cost somewhere in terms of, is it with capital outlay or supplies and curriculum? There's just going to be some areas. And if you flip over to the back of the spreadsheet, Travis has a summary. Travis, do you want to talk about that summary and the allocation of purchase services, supplies?
Yeah, just like in past years, we already looked at the personnel. In the forecast budgeted here in this middle column is basically 2 positions. We've talked about that. To stay consistent, we've just kept the 2 positions in the forecast. Obviously, as we look at the total on the wish list, we would be above and beyond that. So where we're talking about having to recoup that, really the only area to recoup that is to be under the capital outlay allocation of $472,000. Again, things can change. A lot of different factors go into that. Or we dip into the carryover. When we go into a little bit of deficit spending, which is currently on the forecast. Obviously, the new component to this is line 86 with the permanent improvement fund. How much of this wish list do we allocate to the PI dollars? Again, roughly $450,000 in a year. We've already started to collect on that. Theoretically, we could do some things right now if we wanted to, but I think we want to kind of take a cautious approach and get board input on exactly A, what we're going to take out of the permanent improvement fund, and then B, how much, if any, are we going to take out of our general fund in terms of capital outlay if we want to offset additional positions above and beyond the 2. Purchase services and the supplies are pretty routine. I think anything that's marked supplies and purchase services on here, I think we can go ahead and do. Some small curriculum upgrades, some small repairs. I think the 2 things we want to focus on are anything labeled capital outlay and personnel, and kind of go from there in terms of things that the board wants to see done project-wise, or maybe just say, hey, we're not interested in seeing, a new roof in the high school, the 2nd floor. I mean, you look at some of the big ticket items. I think in general, if we look at technology, we're probably going to allocate a sum of money and say go at it instead of picking and choosing throughout here. I think some of the big things you're going to keep in mind that we've already started talking about, line 25 and 26. We've talked about the need for a wrestling area. Line 25 addresses that. The track replacement is a huge endeavor. It's a latex track. It's not in good shape. We've met with a group to do a new polyurethane track, which is really what needs done if you're going to do it and do it right for the long term. Not saying we're going to do it this summer, but
what we've been looking at there, that track has been patched here and there. It's on the finish line. We've replaced that area several times. It is bubbling up. It doesn't stick adhesively to the surface. So we're looking at potentially taking all that off, hopefully just milling a little bit of asphalt off and putting a new layer down to resurface the track. And there's some ways to not necessarily pay for that all at one time. But the track replacement, we now have, I mean, if you were here this afternoon, we have young kids that are getting involved in this Soul Sisters program and are getting excited about running. The middle school track numbers are huge. you know,
That lady certainly seems
close to,
interested.
close to 100 kids. The high school track program had over 120 kids signed up for track this spring. That doesn't mean that they will all follow through, but we're definitely having numbers around 100 with high school track as well. But at some point, we're gonna have to replace that track. That's, it's been
What are
patched.
you gonna do for the spring? Cause I mean, track will be here
Well,
before you know.
that area is gonna be patched one more time.
One more
We're
time,
gonna come back out and
It's
redo that.
pretty bad.
Yeah, it's dangerous right now. It's bubbled up a couple inches. You can catch your toe or foot on it easily.
I could.
I thought somebody was donating the time for the wrestling stuff.
Yeah, well, there's some liabilities issues with that. So we would like to do that as a district where we get bids and we contract with a company that does plans and is licensed and bonded and does it the right way. I'm not saying volunteers are great, but we also want to make sure timely completion of the project in the small time frame that we have, because we have summer camps and everything. We have to get lifts in the gym. There's some removal of bleachers that has to be done, but the price was actually a lot better than what I thought. And to keep in mind, the BIDI program now has over 50 students, 50 BIDI wrestlers. That program is growing. We have 23 middle school wrestlers. Hopefully that continues to grow. We don't have nearly as many at the high school, but trying to provide an area is a real challenge right now. And removing those bleachers would give them about 7 or 8 extra feet and secure that area up there, rather than having kids climbing on bleachers close to the railing.
That's actually not a bad deal, and to be honest, my son wrestles, so I mean, it is kind of,
Yeah.
it is a little risky up there. I mean, someone can plow.
My son
someone
wrestles up there.
Yeah, the athletic boosters is also having some discussion and may have some interest in potentially helping to fund that as well. So, you know, that's the full price right now with the quote that we have. John Pugh did get a quote to build, construct that barrier and remove the bleachers. But those are a couple of the big items. And then, like I said, you saw some personnel on here. We won't go through everything, single item, but this certainly gives the board an idea of what each department and building is looking at. Are there any questions or clarification that's needed as you're looking through this list?
The only question I have with the primary and the intermediate budget, I don't see, of course I might have missed it, are there anything that is more, I guess, more of a permanent nature that we, once the building is built, we can't take to that building? Or are these all considered consumable?
These are a lot of supplies and curriculum, and then on lines 47 and 48, you know, the potential for the additional teaching positions. But most of these are supplies and curriculum related for the primary and intermediate.
So,
Yeah.
will you come back with those, like, with recommendation, we started talking about it at the beginning.
Yeah.
With what you guys are, John Pugh
Right.
was saying the roof, there's, we need a roof replaced.
Yeah, well, and an issue with that is, it continues to be about in the same condition that it was just over a year ago. You know, there's a bidding process, competitive bidding process, and those things may not be able to get done and get scheduled in time for a June or July replacement. So-
Yeah, I was looking, we actually approved last year's bus bid in April. So we would have already had the specs, we've opened the bids and approved Tash. And you know how, I mean, it was a little tenuous at times knowing if they were gonna get done in time.
I was just using that as an example, because a lot of it,
Yeah.
we're not gonna know unless it's recommended.
Right,
Right.
oh, right, absolutely. I mean, Travis and I will meet with Travis after this meeting and before the next, planning session, and we will go through about, okay, from a personnel standpoint, from a capital, these are priority areas, and, we'll look at that budget, and we will bring back kind of a spreadsheet like this. It's highlighted with recommended areas, with the dollar amounts, and how that looks with what is budgeted. And then, you know, any items that, you know, we get a good feel for, we will bring back in April for approval, yes or no, by the board.
I don't see anything on here that says make Mark's slate more properly.
I'll have to have the other one take a look at that.
It didn't like my password, I thought,
Yeah.
enter my password.
Yeah.
So, Travis, you might be able to answer this. Item, line 59, change middle school classrooms to LED. What did we do last year?
That's a great point. We actually, last year, we did both gymnasiums. and we did the entire parking lot and outside area. So we're able to do that under the rebate. That's probably something that we're gonna recommend, because at that point, we'll be eligible for another rebate, because it'll be another year will have transpired.
Yeah, imagine.
Yeah, so,
Eventually.
You're right.
savings, you know.
It does, yeah,
Yeah.
that will pay itself back in a few years. Plus that rebate helps bring that price down.
Sean, one other question I had was, there was another personnel,
Which one?
it's line 32, high school.
Okay.
Are you gonna add something there? Is that something like that? It says 590, is that
Yeah.
person already full-time? They're just-
It's
You had somebody in there.
It's certainly not a priority. We have a 5/9 part-time retired science teacher that we've had for 3 years.
Okay.
And, he's decided, he's got some grandchildren now, and he's ready to fully step
Fully
away.
retired.
Yeah, but, you know, I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. But there is still a possibility to kind of meet in the middle there with line 37. We're looking at taking a computer lab, and we have more mobile devices now, but taking a computer lab and turn that into a STEM fab lab, fabrication lab, where kids can build and explore things. And Mr. Conrad has some ideas about how we might still be able to cover that area with supervision during the day and allow that creativity and STEM-focused area to be within the high school. The other thing I really like that I would probably be recommending is line 36, a leadership training institute for all of our coaches and extracurricular advisors, where we develop, there's different leadership programs, and we've got some pricing, but we're doing some things now, but we want to expand it where we have kids focused more on you know, developing leadership qualities and abilities. You know, it was really to kind of reinforce the importance of leaders in our society, on and off the field, in different clubs, and to carry that leadership that they're developing in high school on into college and the workforce, and just kind of get those kids together. It's more about building leaders, and bringing in also community leaders and people from Central Ohio to help inspire and talk about what leadership, you know, characteristics are important as they enter adulthood. So that's something that, you know, I thought was definitely worth recommending. So I really like that. But a lot of these things we will be able to do. Some of them we definitely will not, in my opinion. It would not be the right timing to do them. And some will have to stay on here for a following year. We just have to prioritize as a board and the administration what we decide to do. The big thing, I think, is to keep in mind that, you know, that we were projected to have a deficit. Our goal is to be conservative, but still provide our students with what they need. And it would be great if we can find a way at the end of the fiscal year to somehow, you know, have carryover.
So speaking of planning, and just looking at the newspaper, I still read all the stuff about the state budget and all that. And since I, did the political action stuff. So how are things looking as far as, how are things looking as far as the state budget, and, how do you think we might fall out of that?
we haven't heard anything, and again, the biggest thing is we are capped. So we will not grow based on how much more they allocate per student. The only way we'll grow is if they increase the cap. So whenever you hear talk about legislation and things, it's all about, are they gonna increase the cap 3%, 5%, 7%?
Well, I still get stuff from Central OA, who I work for, and they're OA is having lobby days like in, I think, April and May, dealing with the budget. And then I looked at the OSBA thing I got, and if I wanted to go to that, it would be like $145, and I can go to the other one for nothing.
Yeah.
So I might just go to the other one that's free, pretty much free, and,
Were they gonna address that at the all-county board then?
Yeah,
It's gonna be addressed there by-
you, Rod, myself, and Joe are all going to the
Yeah, next
all-county
week.
board meeting. Tom Ash,
He's good.
Bassett, governmental relations.
I know.
One topic we asked him to speak to the board members about is school funding and the new budget. And for us, the big issue is removing the cap. If they could remove the cap, we'd have quite a few $100,000 more in
Millions.
state aid, millions.
Yeah.
And see, and sometimes actually, with something like the budget, you actually get BASA and OSBA and OEA and OFT to all get together and have, that lobby would have all those groups there letting you know what's going on, and then you go out and, you kind of appointments, whatever, but I mean, they take something they can all agree on, and, you know, do it as a group.
Yeah. I don't know, any questions overall, any initial thoughts? I mean,
I actually probably a lot worse.
did you really?
I seriously.
Well, there's a lot of items on there that, they did not submit quotes for. So we have to go back and still clarify some of that as well. So,
So any other questions for Mr. Hunt? And Mr. Booth? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion made by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Mills, roll call please.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Mellis,
Yes.
Mr. Bratton,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Abbott.
Yes.
Next month, we're